Hi, this is Mirza. I'm doing my ASE assignments demo for part 1. It's my 4th attempt. Quickly get into it. I've added all the email, name, student ID, course level, and we're making this as into YouTube video, and I will be added into YouTube video. I'm sure it'll go over 15 minutes. I'll add the chapters too there, and I stand out to add the full code on my bucket by the deadline, which will be done as well. Version control, let's go into my version control. That's my version control. GitHub, I've been using GitHub as usual. The main code is here in ASE assignment, and the unit tests are there in this one. Okay, moving on. The link to the repo has been added. I will add a screenshot of the page as well here. That will be done. The number of commits too. Unfortunately, I started the project I think about in the 4th or 5th week, as I was in Dubai for a personal emergency, so I couldn't do that. Extreme apologies for that, but it was 29th of October. I quickly get into my graphical output display, which is here. Is this one, and it's the command line and the multi-line. You build your run program with the run command, clear command. Let's quickly get into my command parsing, how it works. Go through each facility in the code as much as possible, and the unit tests for that too. So let's run this command, rectangle 140. As you can see, it runs. But what really goes on behind the scenes, that's something very interesting we need to check. So let me just bring this here. So when I enter that command rectangle with its parameters 100 and 140, so a series of code is being implemented. So let's go into that. So in this form here, in this form class here, what happens is that when I'm entering this here and I'm clicking this run button, this code is being invoked. Okay, so graphics is created. I mean, not really drawn yet. The graphics is prepared to be created. Okay, it's not drawn yet. Let's come to that. It will basically check if that command line which I just entered here, if it's not empty. Of course not empty, so it will go into the if block, it will check the try and catch over there, and when it's not empty, it will draw the cursor over here. Okay, it will draw the cursor over there, and it will initialize this command object here. Okay, the command variable using the command class. Okay, and it will parse my whatever text I've entered there in this into an object of command, which will basically then pass it on to run command function. I will first go into the parser class. Where's that one? Yeah, I'll quickly go what this does. That will go into run command class. Okay, so the parse shape from single line command, now it has the string input, okay, which is a rectangle 140 here. Which one? This one. Okay, now I'm basically, what I'm doing is that I'm breaking down, doing this kind of checking, which is that even if it's in different cases, like for example, if it's like a rectangle with the capital A, small n, then capital L, then capital E, small e, it still should draw, no matter what the case is. Okay, see, it drew over there, you can't see because it's a different, the same color. So that's how it is. So then what I do is basically is that I split this thing. Okay, split this text into an array of strings. Okay, using this line of code here. Okay, I'm also checking if it's if it's having the right number of parameters as well. If it goes over that, it will throw this exception. We'll come to that later on. Okay, now this array of strings, of course, the first array is going to be the command name, the action name. Okay, let's call it action command name. Okay, and I'm basically initializing the first string, the first, the index number 0 to this string which I'm initializing here, and I'm using this variable here to basically check that whether this thing is a what's wrong with me, a valid command there or not. Okay, now what do we mean by valid command here? So the valid command here basically will check over here. Well, if it's rectangle, if it's one of these, it will return. Okay, fine, it's one of these. Return this one. Return in the form of action. Now you must be wondering, what is this action? What is the blabbering about action? So this action enum is basically let's go into that. It's basically the set of commands which we have already. So this is the kind of restriction, not a restriction. It's a check we are putting that okay, we are having only these set of commands. Okay, so just check from these commands that if it's one of these. If it's not one of these, you will have to throw the exception called invalid. Okay, so none of these, exception invalid. Okay, so now we have basically stored our valid command, which is there in our enum, into this string. Okay, after that, that's saved up over there, waiting to be made into an object. That's staying over there. Okay, and what about our next array of string, which are the parameters? So these parameters are added into a list of string. Okay, and what happens is that they are then added to this, and they are converted into a separate array, and after converting them into a separate array, these are then converted into an integer of array, and then this command name which we have already got here and this integer of array are being then passed into this new command object. Now we go back to the form we had. That's the object we have. Now it has the command name rectangle in the form of a action variable, which is from the enum, and these two are now, instead of strings, they are now variables. Sorry, integer in the form of integer array. Okay, and they are passed into our run command function. That run command function goes here. The run command function sees that okay, what was the command name we got from there? This rectangle, draw the rectangle. What will be the where those parameters go? The parameters goes here to command values. You must be wondering what is this command name and command values? So I'll quickly get into that. So our command class basically has these command values or command name. They're providing these variables. Okay, and we're using this function to actually store them and use them from here. That's how it is. Let me see the checklist quickly. So yeah, that's done. Unit test. I'll quickly show the unit test for that. The unit test here, the commands work in single line command. That's fairly simple. And if I run that, that will very nicely work. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Commands working on single line command. That will work. Okay, reads the program in the program window and executes the run command. I think we did this now. Yeah, I think we did that. Yeah. Circle 50, rectangle 100 to 100, square 50. Yeah, there you go. So runs over there. The unit test is fairly simple. I mean, the unit test for the run command is basically all which is over here, to be honest. Yeah, these are all basically for run command. They're all invoking run command in some or the other way. At this point, we really don't have statement loads as of now, but this will be implemented for part 2 for sure. This is not there at the moment, but for part 2 will be there. Moving on to checking for valid commands. So for the valid commands part, so in this one, if I enter, let me just clear that. If I enter invalid, it will throw the exception invalid, and it's just basically showing me over there as well. But how does this happen, you must be wondering, right? So in my parser class, what I do is that if I am entering any command which is not there in my enum, okay, it's not there in my database of commands which are allowed, I'm basically throwing the exception invalid. Okay, that's how it's done. And must be wondering where the test for this is. So the test for this is here in test exceptions class. This is where I'm basically testing it. Let me run this and show you as well. Test exceptions, where it is. Yeah, I need to fix the spelling of exceptions. Very nice spelling. Yeah, invalid commands over there. Right. Let's show you one more, just for the sake of it. Yeah, there you go. That works perfectly fine. I need to show in the code as well. Yeah, okay. Checking for the invalid parameters. So if I type like something like circle, just like that, it'll be like, bro, where are the parameters? And then if I say something like draw to 100, 100, 100, it'll be like, those are too many parameters. How is that happening? Again, in the parser class, I'm basically telling it, okay, if the input split length, okay, input split, which we have basically, remember when I said that we have split this input into an array of strings. So if the length is only 1 and the command name is not run, it's not clear, it's not reset, then throw that there's one of the parameters missing. And if it, as I also mentioned before, that if it's going over the limit, if it's going more than like 3 strings in an array, throw that, okay, that's a lot of parameters limit exceeded. So that's done. Unit test for that, I think I showed you. I'll show you that again. So this is the unit test. Too many parameters and missing parameters here. If I run that, that will run as well. Yeah, invalid command, missing parameter, too many parameters. Just a second, I'll just take a drink break. That's done. Cool. Okay, I'm just trying to call it from parser. I'll quickly explain this unit test first, just so that it's a bit clear. I'm using this declaration that, okay, this exception is going to give you an exception of type argument exception, just like what I'm giving here, argument exception. Okay, so and just passing this invalid string over here, and then I'm just calling the parser method using the parser object. Okay, it's bound to throw an exception, which is why I've basically given it as an alert. This basically adds like, hey, this expects an exception of argument exception. Okay, look out for it, and that's how it basically catches that, and that's how you're able to successfully, test it. That's done. I'll quickly, I can, you know what? I'll just quickly explain the other testing as well. Here as well, I'm basically initializing the parser object. I'm giving it a normal string input, just like how I give it over here. Okay, and again calling the command object. Initializing the command object, and based on what we saw in the form here, I'm basically calling the same function here. Okay, where did it go? Yeah, and then I'm basically checking that, okay, if it's working, if it's really working, whether it's passing the right command names, passing the right one. I'm checking that. That's fairly simple, very straightforward, which basically is able to check if the string, if the piece of code over there is working or not. Moving on, basic drawing methods. So let's go into move to. Let me clear that. Move 100. You know what we'll do for now? We'll just draw a rectangle test just to see where the cursor is. Okay, that's where the cursor is. So let's use a command move 100. I'm not sure if you can see 100. Okay, yeah, we can see it. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, there you go. The cursor has moved from 0, 0 to 100, 100. That works. The unit test for this, fairly straightforward again. Should be here somewhere. Yeah, there you go. The move to function here. Initializing a string, calling the command, and then checking that if it's really, calling the right one, and if it's really working, if the parser is really working to actually call that, and if that piece of code is working perfectly fine or not. We test it using the run all test, and yeah, it should run as well perfectly fine. There you go. That's the move to function. Moving on to the Drawto. Which is our line. So let me just reset that, otherwise it's gonna be, yeah, okay. Draw to 200, because why I had to do the reset, because otherwise it will draw somewhere here, so you can't see the line. Yeah, now you can see the line because it's there. I mean the cursor is there now, so it's gonna start from there. Let me just clear that. Unit test for this, again, fairly simple. It's a line one, as you can see here. Testing the line, using the command prompt, using the parse shape function, and checking if the piece of code is really working or not. I run the test for the sake of the demo. Test lines, it should be, yeah, all of them work. I am basically testing it with different cases, like normal, then with different cases, and checking if its parameters were, you know, uh, correctly parsed or not. Yeah, cool. The clear function now, let me just draw something. A rectangle 120, 140, that draws it. I pass this, we'll clear it. Actually, we'll leave the cursor there. That's supposed to be done like that. Cursor won't move. You know what? I'll just, what I'll do is I'll move 100, 100. Okay, if I say clear, it won't go. It'll stay there. It'll be like I'm not going from here anywhere. Okay. Reset command. So what happens in the reset command is this. I think, remember it right? Yeah, it will move back there. It's basically over there, but it just leaves it over there. For some reason, we can't really erase this, but it will go back to that position 0 0. Before it was 100 100, we'll go back to 0 0. To prove that, what we can do is that we can just draw a square on that position to prove that the pointer has gone back there. There you go, gone back there safely to 0 0. Then we come to rectangle. I think we have been doing rectangle all this while. Oh wait a minute, I didn't show you the unit test for reset command and how it works. You know what I'll do is I'll show clear and reset command both in code first, then we'll move to the rectangle one. Okay. 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 Yeah, the clear one. I think I've done it here. Yes. Clear one. I'm basically just clearing the whole canvas. We're using the clear built-in function of graphics and just make it white, and I'm drawing the cursor on the left hand side of the top. Not very straightforward, and I'm basically testing that using a very basic function over here. You should check if it's working or not, that piece of code. If I run it, it will run perfectly fine. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, there you go, pass clear. Same goes with reset. Reset is a bit different. So what happens in reset is that it will move the cursor to the default position, which is 0 0. It will draw the cursor over there. It will remove everything from the text command line. It will remove everything from the multi-command line, and it will just, go back to the default fill. Okay, that's how it works. And even this one, sorry, the test is very simple for that too. It's just like clear, checking if the command is not null. Can add more to that in part 2. I think I can make it more rigorous. Let's see. Yeah, reset passes. Moving on to the rectangle now. Rectangle 100 100, like what we're seeing throughout, works perfectly okay. Is different, but perfectly okay again. How it's done in the code, let's go into that. So as you can see here, we have the default length and value set. We have the getters and setter methods for length and height. Rectangle uses length and height for this, and yeah, and we have its own constructor where we are initializing the position, initializing the pen color, initializing the length, the height, and the boolean fill, if it's fill on or off. using the number 0 and 1. 0 for off, 1 for on. Okay, and we're taking pen color position from shape. It's inheriting shape. The shape is the parent class here. Rectangle is the child class here. Okay, and we're using this draw function, which is basically an abstract function from the shape class. Let me show you the shape class quickly. There you go. That's the shape class. It has default pen position fill, pen color position fill, and basically taken from there, and we are taking this abstract draw function from there. Okay. Yeah, so it basically checks if this fill thing, if this fill boolean is false, then it will just draw a rectangle normally. But if it's not false in some case, then it will draw a rectangle but filled with color. We'll go to fill in a bit. And you must be wondering about how did he do the unit tests. Unit tests are fairly, again, simple. I mean, unit tests are tested for checking if the commands are working with command line. I was basically checking using the rectangle example. Basically, intern is checking for rectangle itself in different cases, like rectangle in capital case, rectangle in different cases, rectangles parameters if they are being parsed correctly or not. I run them, they'll run perfectly okay. All right, that is done. Circle's radius. Okay, circle. Let's go into circle. Circle working. Yeah, there you go. I mean, let me draw it somewhere here. You can see a bigger one. Clear that off. That works. I'll show you in the code how it's done. So for circle, we are basically needing the radius. The default radius set there just as a placeholder. The radius is set as it was as it was length and height in rectangle. We have a default constructor if we are calling it by itself, but if we have calling it using the shape, then we need to use this one. As it's just like rectangle, it's inheriting pen color position fill from shape, and we use the built-in function draw ellipse for this, and we kind of changing the formula here where we position.x minus the radius so that it aligns its position according to the radius. And if it's not fill, I mean if the fill is equal to true, then it will fill the ellipse, it will fill the circle with the color which was selected, which we'll get into there shortly. And the unit test for this is fairly simple too. We're checking the commands working for circle 50, which we just did just now. We're checking the command parameters. Okay, I don't know why do I have this. And if it's a capital case, it should be just one. I'm sorry about the unit test. Unrealistic unit test, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah. Moving on to the triangle command, which is the most interesting one. Triangle. Let me just put triangle 100. We'll draw an right triangle. At this point of time, I have just a right triangle, but I have plans of taking this a bit more further, that where I will give the user a chance to draw an obtuse, a scale-in, or equilateral triangle. So that will be done too. As of now, what I did was this was a very, very tricky implementation where I had to initialize these 3 points because there's no set built-in function for this. So I had to set these 3 points and then use this function called triangle sides, where I basically take in one side length of the triangle, and I decide that okay, which point will be at which position, and then which point will be at which position compared to the side length, and the third point is going to be basically just like compared to the side length plus that. Okay, so this is the formula for right triangle. But for part 2, I will be giving the user a chance to draw obtuse and a scale-in based on what kind of parameters they are providing. So that time there's going to be some if conditions where it's checking, okay, if the number of parameters are 2, there's going to be something like equilateral. If it's 3, scale in, because all the sides are going to be different in that. It's again taking these 3 variables from shape again. It's calling shape again. And what I do in the draw function here is that I initialize an array of points, and I initialize all the index numbers like point 0 to point A, point B, point C, and then I pass those to draw polygon. So draw polygon is the function I'm using here. This is how I'm doing it for now. And unit test is there as well for this. If I go back to test shapes, there's a unit test for this. Can you show me, please? Yeah, here you go. Those are the unit tests. I'm basically checking the triangles, if it's working commands or not, with different case, sensitive case. What are the parameters, if the parameter is parsed correctly or not. All of that, all the edge cases. I'll just run that for the demo's sake. Yeah, runs perfectly okay. Moving on to the color command. Now, what I do is I'm not using color as I'm using pen. So what I do is I change the color using pen command. Now it's changed to red. It was green before, as you saw. So if I just draw any shape like rectangle, I can just call it like rectangle 100, 150. So draw using the red one, as you saw. Okay, and what did I use for this? I basically, if I show you my code in form here. So what I do is I've used numbers for this. So what I do is that when pen command is called with a parameter 1, 2, or 3, based on that, if the parameter is 1, then the pen color is going to change to blue. If it's 2, to red. To 3, to green. So I've said that right now. I'm thinking of making this more dynamic in part 2. Right now it's hard-coded, but just for the sake that I needed to put this command, I've added it in that way. But for part 2, it's going to be dynamic. That's something which I have planned for that. And the unit test for this is there too. The unit test is fairly straightforward, just checking the function for that, like draw to. If you see the color of pen, it's pen 2. It's to check if it's it's not null. And going on to the fill function. Now, if I say, or type the command fill and then follow it by the parameter 1, okay, this is basically turning on the fill mode. Now, whatever shape I make is going to be filled. Ready to see the magic? There you go. It's all filled. I just want to clear that, and now I want to just turn off the fill mode. Okay, just say full 0. Turn off. Now if I draw the same shape again, it won't be filled. There you go. Alright, I think we're towards the end of the basic drawing commands. So I haven't used any AI or any libraries, but these for sure 100%, 200% are going to be added to the part 2. So part 2 is going to be a power pack one. That's it for my demo for part 1 ASE. I am sorry if I've been annoying, and thank you so much.